Are debt settlement companies about to make it almost impossible for people to start working out deals with credit card companies without having to go there face to face or to get sued in court or having to deal with them on the phone when they are already under a lot of stress and pressure and have to go to work, deal with kids, all types of stuff? Well, I want to give you an update, something that is trending right now that I've personally experienced with dealing with clients. And I just happened to have an excellent conversation with uh, 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 an original creditor. I'm not going to mention the company's name because I don't want to get anyone in trouble if they start listening to the recordings. But this individual told me, who worked in the legal department for this credit card provider, stated that they do not want to work with debt settlement companies. And here's the issue uh, with that is that they, in essence, what they're doing is they're increasing the cost of an individual to be able to settle that debt for less. They're increasing that cost. They're making it worse. Now, but I don't believe that they're doing that. They didn't do it to hurt consumers. This is a result of what companies have done to credit card companies, and the consumers are stuck in the middle, and the consumer is the one who ends up suffering. So, if you've been watching my videos, if you've been following me, if you ever went to my website, if you ever seen any videos that I've made on debt settlement, I will tell you my company's policy is to never tell a person to stop paying their credit cards. I never tell people to do that. You will not find a video where I say, if you're paying your credit cards and you just have trouble paying them, stop paying them, let them charge off, and then go to settlement. I never tell people to do that. But the debt settlement companies do tell people to do that. And I'm not going to mention any names. But the debt settlement companies are telling people, if you're struggling with credit card debt, there are these so called quote unquote programs that allow you to settle your debt for less. There is no program that exists, but you can settle your debt for less. And the way that they're getting people to settle their debt for less is to stop paying on their credit cards. So their programs are like this. So I'm going to clarify it in this video, and I'm going to tell you the options that are available to you now, because if you don't have a company like mine, you're going to end up having to get an attorney if you don't feel that you're comfortable talking to them yourself, because you got to be careful with that, because if they ask you certain questions, you're going to give them an open door to not have the best negotiation. You never negotiate with all your cards on the table. And the best way to negotiate is to always have someone in the middle that could say, hey, let me get with my client and I'll follow back up with you on that. So, what the debt settlement companies want people to do, their gimmick, like my Aunt Sylvia said, you got to have a gimmick. Uh, I miss you, Aunt Sylvia. She passed away a long time ago. But she would say you got to have a gimmick. So this is their gimmick. Their gimmick is they run the commercials out there. You could, if you're struggling to pay your credit cards, and you have $10,000 or more. The reason why they $10,000 or more is because when they do their formulas and the payment that you're going to have to pay them every month on top of what needs to be settled, because it goes into an escrow account, it needs to be $10,000 or more. And you might be thinking, well, if it's less than 10,000, it would be easier for them to settle. It's not easier for them to settle because they want to get paid fees. And the fees will not be justifiable if it's under $10,000. So that's one of the things that people, they'll be like, well, Steve, why do these debt settlement companies require it to be $10,000? That's the reason why, because they're stacking it with fees. Now, so what they tell people to do is you can call us up. They run through all your credit cards and they say, how much are you paying? They get the payments. Say you're paying $2,000 a month. They're going to say, okay, you got $20,000 worth of credit card debt. We think that we could cut it in half, but you have to stop paying all those credit cards and start paying us uh, $1,000 a month, and you get to keep 1,000 that you because you're struggling paying 2,000, right? So this is the psychological effect with people where they're like, "Oh, I'm going to save money right away," and that's what they say in their commercials. Now, so they want people though. This is where I have the huge problem. This is where I had a huge problem, and I think that this is why the credit card companies. Well, I know the guy didn't outright say it, but he just said we're not dealing with no debt settlement companies anymore. That's what he straight up told me, and he was like, "You're not a debt settlement company. Your company POA sent over, not a debt settlement company." And even if they didn't want to deal with our company, we can get an attorney on record that they could deal with, but that brings the cost up when doing this stuff for people. So they want people to stop paying, send them 1,000. You're supposedly going to keep 1,000. We know it don't always work out that way. You're already struggling. You couldn't even pay 2,000. Most people who call them wasn't paying at all. They just hadn't charged off yet. And the people who do charge off, then when they charge off, if they are not careful, they're going to end up uh, using the money the wrong way. Most people cannot stay in their programs. You can look on their website. The numbers are in the single digits for success rate. Single digits on their website. I'm not mentioning any company names. You just go. You heard the names. Go there. Look all the way at the bottom, and you can see their disclosures. So they tell people to stop paying, and then what they're going to do is they're going to, after they charge off, they're going to start reaching out to try to settle. They cannot stop those companies from suing you. They can sue you, and they will not even give you anything to represent yourself in court. They don't do that. They don't even get into that type of stuff. So you can be sued. They cannot stop it. And what they're going to do is they got to let that money add up, and then they got to get that original creditor to accept a settlement. Now, here's the problems, and this is from experience of what I've seen with this. And number one, I'll repeat again, we never tell people to stop paying their credit card debt or any debt. You can only come to us to deal with this if you've already been charged off. Like you're already there. You're like, Steve, here, I want to just hand it over to you. We did this before we even saw your video or met you. This is just our situation. That's where we step in. So they want you to do the charge off. They're going to put that money, a portion of that has to go to escrow. Something that you need to know, if you're in any of these programs, you can ask for your money back at any time. It might be hard to get it, but you can ask for your money back at any time. Unless they do settlements, then they can take fees out. It goes into an escrow, and let's just say that one of your accounts is $5,000, and they said that we'll settle for $2,500. That means that you've put in 2.5 months worth of money to them. Did you know that they will not settle that because on the $5,000, this is how they do their fees. So you got $5,000 times 0.15, 15 to 20%. So it's going to be, if they say that they want to settle it for half, 50%, you're like, man, I'm going to save 50%. Well, you're 2,500 plus $750. So you're at 3,250. And they're like, well, hey, you still save. You didn't have to pay 5,000, so you should be happy. That's the way they look at it. And if you think about it, yes, if it got you out of the debt, you paid less than what you used because it's not like that you didn't use the whole $5,000. So that's the way that they look at it. Like any money that we save you less than $5,000 that you use, you benefited from utilizing that. That's what they, start to point out when you start to get a little upset with them. Is they're going to say, well, you did use that, so you're not even having to pay that amount back. And then these are our fees. That's the way it works. And if you don't have the money to pay the fees, they will set you up with one of their lenders, which I am totally against. I would never have anyone borrow money to pay my fees for any settlement. Never. I would never have anyone do that. So if you are trying to settle, when people come to us before we even put you under contract, and even when you read the contract, is exactly what we talked about on the phone. And if you don't have the money to settle, we won't even sign you. We're not going to try to take no escrow. We don't want to take money out of your pocket. You got to take care of your family. You got to take care of your expenses. So we're just not that type of company. So If you have money to settle and we tell you our fees up front, it's based off of how many accounts we got to deal with. We call these companies like belly up. Hey, this we do settlements every day, every day. So I guess they're gonna have to come up with a new name instead of debt relief, instead of debt settlement. Get ready. There's going to be a new name that comes about. They're going to say we're not a credit counseling, we're not a debt settlement, and we're not a debt relief. We're going to be something else. That's what they're going to come up with a new name. So now that's what you would have to go through for debt settlement with those companies. That's what's going to happen. Now here is what the options on what these companies are pushing out there now because they got sick and tired of dealing with the debt settlement companies is that they want you to get an attorney. So you already know if you got to go get an attorney, it's going to increase your fees on what you got to pay for. If you want to have someone talk on your behalf, two things could potentially happen. Not to say every attorney will do this, but a lot of them will. Is that they're going to either push you towards a Chapter 13, Chapter 7, or they're going to charge you a 15% premium on the gross on the gross. So a lot of people don't believe me on that until they go through it and you end up getting a bill and you're like, well, I just paid the settlement and now I got this is your fee. This is your fee. Like, man, I'm just telling you. But some people have a hard time speaking for themselves. And so what I was when I was talking with the gentleman with the credit card company, which I appreciate him talking and giving me that information. That's why it's important to have someone who is in the game that is not afraid to get on the phone and who really does this stuff. Is that he was like, man, I agree with you. It's going to make this harder for people to be able to settle these debts. I agree. But he didn't go into detail about with those. I just took it from the hints he was giving me. It's because the debt settlement companies are telling people to stop paying those credit cards. And again, if you running commercials out there and then the credit card companies get hip to like, why did you stop paying your credit? Why did you stop paying us? And they say, well, this company said that we're going to be able to settle for 50% on the dollar. You think that they're going to just keep doing that stuff, that they're going to just be like, okay, we're okay with this. They're not okay with that. They're not okay with it. So it's going to force people to either do it themselves, which you can do. You are capable of doing it, but you just got to be careful not to answer certain questions because if you have someone in between, you may not, because they could say, well, we want to see your financial documents, we want to see your assets, we want to see all this stuff. If you have someone in between talking for you, say, okay, let me get with my client, we can get that stuff for you, then get back on the phone. Hey, let's try to work this out without having to get to those documents. But if you're talking to them, for yourself, and you say that, they're gonna be like, well, what the hell are you hiding? No, we ain't doing nothing. We want all the money. We'll take you to court now. That's what's gonna end up happening with people that try to do that, where they're gonna be like trying to speak for themselves, unless you're very good on the phone and you're very comfortable. Not to say that you can't do it. And then if you end up going to an attorney, which you have a right to do that if you can afford it, do that. But it is going to be either trying to push you towards a Chapter 7, Chapter 13, and it's going to be a 15% if they don't just charge you up front. I'm just telling you, this is my opinion from experience, my opinion from personal experience, and from what clients also told me. So that's what we're going through. I was reading a story the other day, and it said that the buy now, pay later, the issues with the buy now, pay later, it was like buy now and not pay later. That's what that they should change the name. It's not buy now, pay later. It's buy now and not pay. So, uh, I think that everybody is trying to pay their bills. Like I know people are going to be commenting, all you got to do is pay your bills. You got to watch your expenses. You got to, eat cheese and beans and rice and go deliver some pizzas and newspapers, even though newspapers don't exist anymore. Maybe go deliver some Uber and all of that stuff. That's how you're going to work your way out of it. That's That's that. I call, you want to know what I call that? And I'm not talking uh bad about anybody who says, "Hey, you need to pay your bills." Because I know at one time I was at that mindset. But when you start to deal with a lot of people, you start to see what people go through. And also, when I just, we had this habit. We as humans have this habit where we make it through something hard, difficult, and we built ourselves back up, quote unquote, bootstrap and all that conservative stuff that people talk about, and then we forget fast. Get fast. And then other people go through it and be like, well, just pay your bills. It's that easy. If it was that easy just to pay your bills and do everything the right way, if it was just so easy, then why do we got all these books on straightening up families, all these books on not getting divorced, all these books on dating, all these books on depression, all of these books on financing, all of these books on credit and all of these books on how to pay down debt and all of these radio and TV shows. It's because we as humans, we make mistakes. That's why. We as humans are imperfect and we are prone to make mistakes. We're prone to get into a habit that is not so good for us, all of us. So, any of you who want to put those comments, I invite them, but just keep that in mind as you're writing that comment is that there's imperfections within you also. So the way that I always want to look at it is let's confront where the problem is. Let's just if you have too much credit card debt, let's look at what's going on with that credit card debt. Let's stop spending on stuff first. Let's do something little. Let's just stop spending money that we don't have. Next, let's just look at is there any possible chance if I just change my behavior with spending and watch the money that I have coming in, my net income, can I slowly work my way out of this? Some of the time, this is what's happened with some people. I've had this happen with people who work for a living, work a regular job, and I've had it with people who work very good jobs that were they high income, but they're paycheck to paycheck. And I've had this with business owners where all they needed to do is just say, Steve, I just need to talk to you. I need you to just see my situation and just be there for me to answer questions because people want uh, people want to know what can happen. uh we all want to know, like, what's the worst that can happen, and then when you know the worst that can happen, okay, well, what are my options if I do this? Is it, we always want to ask somebody that other question that we're not too sure of. We want certainty. My mentor Marshall Silver said if you can give someone certainty, they'll do almost anything that you ask them to do, because if they're certain, if they feel certain, it doesn't even have to be certain for sure, but if they feel certain from the information that you give them that they're going to move forward in life a lot better, because nothing is for sure. But just think, if you just had in your own mind that, okay, if I just follow this instruction from Steve, if I just do what he told me to do, everything is going to work out, and not have to have it work out exactly the way that I may have drawn it on the board or said it in words, but my words carry you. So, like my grandson, this what my grandson said to me, and I thanked him this weekend. This is the honest truth. Is I was going through a rough patch with some stuff with business. When you have over I think now about 130 employees, you can stuff can kind of wear on you, especially when you going from one company and you see what's going on, go to the other one, and I always tell my grandkids, I say it comes from the mind first. What you think becomes reality. And the more that you think it, the more that you understand that your life is going to be better. And I was going through a rough patch, and I don't tell my grandkids that I'm going through anything rough. I don't tell my grandkids, oh well, your grandfather is kind of thinking about a lot of stuff right now. He must have just he's very smart for being 5 years old. He's very smart. Um, he said to me, he just looked at me and he said, Ange, and this is they call me Andrew. So the Stephen A is for Andrew, is that he said, Ange, uh, it all comes from the mind. It comes from the mind first. And the crazy thing about it is I didn't even thank him that day for it. Even me, who is always being positive and moving forward, is that I thought about what he said later in this past weekend. When I just remembered when I saw him, I said, "Thank you for reminding me it comes from your mind first." So if you think that you are not going to be able to pay off that credit card debt, you will not be able to pay off that credit card debt, or it's going to be more difficult for you to pay off the credit card debt. That's why if someone gives you a plan, you walk into the door. Imagine you come into my office and you say, I don't know what I'm going to do about this credit card debt. And then I give you a plan for the credit card debt. Then you're thinking, okay, this plan could potentially work. But just think if you would just go one extra step and say that credit card debt will be paid, and that's because you know in your own mind it's going to be accomplished. That little simple thing will help you move through your days. Have so much power, it'll be incredible. Like when I wake up in when I wake up in the morning, I jump right out of bed. My wife be like, "Are you crazy? You jump out of bed?" Like this morning, I jumped out of bed at like 4:30 in the morning. Jump, just got up, just got up. I don't play around. I don't say stuff like, "Well, I don't feel like getting out of bed." I don't even say that. If I don't feel like getting out of bed, I don't say it. I don't want to put that energy out. I just get up. And guess what happens a little bit after I get up? I feel good about getting up. Drink some water, feel good about getting up. As a matter of fact, let me drink some water right now. So don't let the outside world define who you are. Don't let the outside world tell you how to feel. Don't let the outside world tell you how to react. And on reaction, let's talk about that real quick. It's like that bonus content. Like this video if you haven't done it already. When people do and say things to you, it's to get a reaction out of you. If you react to them, then you've given them your power. This is something I learned a long time ago. Actually, I learned this when I was 15 years old. When people that I thought were my friends, were making fun of me, they were saying stuff about how I look, all types of stuff. And it was mainly because I was changing at that time to not just do nothing, like when people started asking, what are you going to do? When I was 14, 15, it was going to be business. It was going to be business. I remember when I was on the basketball team and they told me not to try out for the basketball team. And they said, Williams, uh, like it was like four of us. And he was like, you not y'all not may as well not even try out for the basketball team. Don't even try out. And but he said, Williams, the football coach wants to see you. And I was like, I went there because I mean, you're young, you're 15 years old. Went there and I even did the spring training, played in a spring football game. This was in 10th grade. And but I had decided in my own mind that I was going to be a businessman, like fully, full fledged. It was no stopping me. It was in my mind. I was already picturing success. I didn't know what I was going to be doing, but I was already, it was going to be something with business. It was going to be something with business. And it's been a long journey, but I had pretty quick success. And that might just be because of the, when you start at age 15 and then you start your first company at the age of 20 and you make that company into a very successful company that is over 34 years old now. This February, it'll be 34 years old. Uh, I think that I've done pretty good, but that all came from the mind. And from that period of time, I stopped allowing people to get reactions out of me. If you don't allow people to get reactions out of you, you won't be fighting. You won't be cussing people out. You won't have to be apologizing to people. A whole bunch of stuff that you don't even have to have mind space for anymore. Like, just imagine if you said something to somebody, it weighs on your mind too. Like, you say something to someone that you didn't really mean, even if you did mean it, that's in your mind. So now when you see the person, what do it's like, man, I got to apologize. Then when you see the person again, do you think sometimes you might be like, well, did they really accept my apology? You see them, but you don't know if they're being real with you. And so what I've learned over a period of time is that, hey, you just don't want to get in any situation where you're going to have to be apologizing to people. Now, you can apologize for mistakes or things that maybe got missed, stuff like that, but like not where you're like confronting someone to try to get them, to get them upset. I just don't get involved with that type of stuff. All right, so I'm going to end the video here. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, what makes us different, so you can see my 8-point validation process, my two-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website, your3scores.com to grab your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. If you have debt collectors coming after you early, grab my 3-pack of letters, statute of limitations, cease and desist collection activities letter, and debt validation letter. The link is below this video. I do ask for a donation, but it's up to you. If you don't want to, that's up to you. But those letters can save you time, money, and frustration, and they're used for if it's early in the game. Now, if you're being sued by a debt collector, there's a link below where you can get some information on getting help with that also. So don't leave that open out there. Just answer the live chat where a young lady is getting sued and she's like, I could just tell by her words on the live chat that she's not feeling too good right now. All right, thank you for your time. Please subscribe to the channel. Post your questions and comments. This is Stephen A. Williams, President and Founder of thecreditrepairshop.com.